everybody, and welcome to Cinemondo and tons of cool people. Hello, everyone. Lara,
Hello.
Melanie, Katherine,
Hello.
Elizabeth, Harsha. Yay! All right, so we are going to do an all-female panel about how was 2022 movie scene. So I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves, and then we'll just take off from there and talk about what we thought about 2022 and beyond. We might derail it. Who knows? We're gonna
We
see what
might.
happens. It just might
I
happen.
think it might
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Crazy things happen when there's many people here. Okay, let's start. Let's just go clockwise. Sarah, kick it off.
Oh, hi, I'm Lara. I am a guest on Cinemondo fairly frequently and a few other podcasts like Thor's Tower of Thunder, and I live in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
I'm Melanie, and I have a YouTube channel called Pardesi Reviews. I also have a podcast on Korean dramas that Katherine is a member of as well.
Yay.
But we met through Indian cinema. And recently got introduced to Kathy through a viewer, and we've been doing some collaborations together. So really glad to be here today.
Great.
You also have a cute haircut.
I know. See, she knows. And I guess Harsha.
Yeah, hey, I'm Harsha with Katherine. I have a podcast called Bolendini Pati, which is about Malayalam cinema only, but been I am Indian, so lifelong viewer of all Indian cinema. In general, cinema fan.
Nice.
And I live in Houston, Texas.
Hi, guys. So my name is Elizabeth. I am a contributor, I guess you could say, to Bloody Good Horror, frequent guest of the podcast. I come on here as often as I can. I miss you guys, and was so stoked when Kathy asked me to join today.
I was excited you could because I know you're a busy woman.
It's rare. It's like a Sunday. Well, I do have a client after this, but I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad to see you guys.
And then Katherine.
Well, I've pretty much been introduced by Melanie and Harsha. I live in southwestern Ontario. I'm the token Canadian here, but I also write a blog called TotallyFilmy.com.
Oh, excellent. So everybody's pretty familiar with, we're all obsessed with films, different genres. Like I was introduced to Indian film relatively recently, like within the past year. I've been kind of ramping up, and Melanie's become my new guru. She basically is introducing me to the older, cool RSK and all that fun stuff that I wasn't sure where to start. So it's been really fun, and I always liken it to when I discovered Indian films, it was like opening a treasure. Like I didn't know this existed, and I don't know what I assumed. It just didn't occur to me. Just like when you're seeing all this publicity about RRR, and everyone's like, the first Indian film to actually capture Western's attention is because no one realized how freaking awesome they are. So I'm glad that it broke through, because then it'll get attention for other Indian films, like how I discovered it. Bahubali. I mean, Bahubali is one of my introductions.
So
I think everyone seems to be there for one of their first films.
So good.
And, it's just so glossy and beautiful, and you could tell the filmmaker loved film, and so that's what kind of kicked it off for me. And as far as the 2022, I think RRR was a huge leap in my Indian film appreciation. So with that in mind, we're just going to kick it off right away. We're not going to make people wait, but what are some of your favorite films of 2022, and then why do they appeal to you and affect you? And we'll start with Melanie.
So viewers of my channel will know that I review films of basically the 5 kind of biggest languages. So that's Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada. No, I don't speak any of those languages. We rely on English subtitles. But I'm lucky to live in a town near Chicago that has those films play in theaters here, so that I can see them usually, on a theatrical release. Although this year in Hindi, some of the films that are notable in Hindi really just came straight to streaming through Netflix. So we've already mentioned RRR. That was one of the bigger films of the year for me. And it was kind of a disappointing year in Hindi film. Like, I don't know how some of the other watchers feel about it, but I'm looking forward to Patan, which is kind of kicking off 2023 with a big new SRK movie. The same director as War, which was a big, film from a few years back. And it just feels like finally a big Hindi film, a big fun Hindi film. So not only in Hindi films, but there was a Pakistani film called The Legend of Malajat. I don't know if anybody else was able to see that. Catherine's done. Oh my God.
My trials trying to go to see that.
Yeah. Okay. Super violent. Like there's a beheading on screen. Like don't bring your 3-year-old, but oh my God, that was an amazing film to watch in the theater. And it stars Fawad Khan, who has appeared in Bollywood films, but with the tensions between Pakistan and India, has not been in a Bollywood film for some time. And it was like,
interesting.
He's back on the screen. So, and I wanted to highlight a smaller Tamil film called Gargi. The director was Gautam Ramachandran, but it had a female cinematographer, Shreyanti, and her partner Prem. And it stars Sai Pallavi, who viewers of my channel will know. I'm a huge fan of this actress. She kind of crosses different industries, started in Malayalam, she's done Tamil films, she's done Telugu films. She is incredible. So it's, here's this female-focused film. It's about a difficult subject about child sexual abuse, and there's sort of a mystery element, whodunit. But it also has her supporting actor is Kali Venkat, who is this, he's been a cop, he's been a supporting character in so many other films, but he plays her kind of beginning lawyer, kind of trying to help her out, and he was absolutely delightful as well. So I just wanted to highlight a smaller film that was really kind of special, and it's on streaming now for you to catch up with that one.
I think every actor plays a cop at some point. Just have to. So
cops in Indian films are almost kind of like the superheroes, right? Like,
or the criminals. I can't decide which.
I know it's
a little bit of everything, but yeah, I mean, but especially I've seen him as a supporting character, like I said, that particular actor, and a lot of smaller parts, and it was nice to see him get a little chance to shine in a bigger role. But Sai Pallavi, she's amazing. She's amazing.
I'll look for her. All right.
Harsha, what did you see this year?
So I actually, once you guys suggested this panel is when I started. So we because we do this podcast, I was heavily focused on Malayalam cinema this year. And I'm typically, I watch across languages, just like Melanie does, but I was really focused on Malayalam cinema. I also got married, so time was limited in the past year. So Hindi and Malayalam tended to be most of my makeup, but I am trying my very best to catch up on 2020 films in Tamil and Telugu, and Marathi and Bengali, which are all the languages that I watch in. And so this year, my favorites were, I'm going to start from my home language, Malayalam, and it's Bhutakalam, and it is an excellent film about a mother and a son sort of trapped psychologically, at least, in a home where they're dealing with the death of very recently the grandmother, the mother's mother, and prior to that, the dad of the household, so the mother's husband, the son's dad, and they're in this very toxic relationship, but where the mom doesn't want to let him go, and he resents her for that. And we have talked about it this film in our podcast coming up in one of our episodes. But then they start to experience a haunting.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, so yes, there's this very, very toxic parent-child relationship, but there's also a haunting, and it is it threads the line between, is this psychological or is this genuinely demonic haunting? And so absolutely recommend it. It is available. Katherine will know which platform it's available on. Sorry to put you on the spot, Katherine. It's
I do think it's on something like Sony Live or Z.
Yes,
so it's
it's
one of
one
the
on-
more
Okay.
niche Indian streamers.
It's on
But-
one of the Indian platforms. I watched it on a not super legal site.
I'll edit that.
On a,
Edit.
stuff.
You mean purely legal subscription service that you like?
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And the
Thanks,
second one great. The second one I'm going to recommend is Kala, which was released on Netflix, and it's directed by Anmita Dutt, and it has the extremely charming Tripti Dimri in the lead role. It's about a singer in the time where India is transitioning from colonial rule to independence, and she has this mother who is mother and father who come from classical music traditions from Kashmir, and her mother does not feel that she's worthy of this legacy, so she kind of takes in this other young man who she sees as the future of this tradition. And it once again, it's about a toxic parent-child relationship. I'm sensing
It's a theme.
here. It's a theme, and beautifully shot. That she's kind of known for that. She's kind of known for really rich colors in her films, and because this is set in Kashmir, there's a lot of things that happen in snow. And my partner, who doesn't usually watch Indian films with me, was really like, "Oh my God, these costumes are beautiful. These are not costumes I've seen in Indian films." Partly because they don't depict often Kashmiri people, because Kashmir is kind of a geopolitical hotspot in Indian culture or Indian geopolitics. So yeah, highly recommend this. How this relationship unwinds, and she kind of makes it to stardom as a singer. And finally, I'll recommend a rom-com called Tara versus Bilal. It is also on Netflix, and it was such a delight to watch it. It is about a young bride who ends up in the UK, and she's being scammed by the man who marries her. And so he abandons her, takes all her money, and this British Asian man offers to pretend to be her fiance for various legal and personal reasons, and yeah, it's a very contract relationship to real romance.
Love that trope.
Story.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it too.
I
For
do
romance
too.
novel
Yeah,
fans,
it's so good.
it's a really ideal film. And Harsha Rana is gorgeous. He's a gorgeous man, and he needs his flowers in lead roles. So yeah.
All right, and then let's go to Lara. It looks like your internet's cooperating, so we'll jump to you real quick.
That's exciting. So we watched so many films this year. Just getting back into Indian films. I grew up watching them, not loving them because it's a 4-hour movie. Every single film. And when you're young and growing up, that's not really what you want to watch, especially when you don't know the language. But my mother is from Trinidad, so we used to some half Indian. It's great. Broad spectrums, half Indian, half Italian. A lot of great food.
Very exotic.
Didn't watch them for a very long time, but spent summers in the hot going into the ice cold theater in Princetown.
Which is why they're 3-4 hours long.
This movie. So we've probably seen some of the more broader movies that were available to us here in the States. So one of my favorites, I think, so far that we've seen, I loved Brahmastra. I mean, you can't.
It was so cute.
Not love. I mean, it was so adorable. It was so sweet. It was so good.
One of the few we got to see the theater here.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, and then we saw RRR. We saw
Big spectacles.
Obviously, we saw KGF Chapter 2.
Eardrum's
and
still
then-
recovering from that one.
Oh my God, yes. But I also really liked Kentara. I thought it was fantastic.
Really
I
fun.
didn't think I was going to like it at all, but I really
Did you see
enjoyed
it in the theater or did you see it streaming?
I saw it streaming. I think I've only seen maybe 2 films in the theater this
Yeah,
year.
Kantara was one that, just imagine the forest
I know,
soundscape was
Ah.
incredible in the theater. So that
So great.
and I think they may have had to cut something that song or something that they had to cut
That's
for
right.
the streaming.
Don't get me
but-
started, Melanie.
Catherine knows.
Controversy.
No, there was a bit of a controversy about one of the songs right at the end of the film, and a band called Taikoram Bridge, which is a Malayalam band, had a song out a few years back, and the songs are very similar, and the way the videos were shot are very similar. The case ended up being thrown out on not they just didn't they the 2 judges said that they weren't in the right court to deal with it,
Oh,
so
Mm.
that's kind of where it ended.
interesting.
So,
they
yeah,
just
it had
pursue
it had some issues.
But at least they at least took a move in the film to change it. I guess.
Well, I think once the court case was dropped, the song went back in. So
Oh, it went back in. I wonder which
Yeah.
version I saw, because I saw the original song and then I saw the film, and I'm not sure if I saw.
if you saw it in theaters, you would have seen the original.
Mhm.
Okay,
If you
Okay.
saw it on Amazon Prime when it just went up,
right.
you would have seen the original, and then they shifted it, and then they shifted it back.
Oh,
That
So-
troubles
Oh,
me, and I feel like there's
interesting.
a
Yeah.
future of that happening with more streaming
Yeah.
thing. Like I don't know. That's one argument I think against everything now having this like secondary location of streaming.
yeah.
I think
and
there
then
was an
also-
out of court settlement.
Was there?
That's the rumor I've heard, that there was an out of court settlement, and there was another song, Singara City, which has two, sort of. I'm not a music expert. There are bits of it that sound a lot like the song Apsara Ali by Atul Ajay from a Marathi film, and it's a big hit song in Marathi, and it's one of my favorite songs. And I definitely heard the similarity, but only after somebody pointed out Varaha Rupam and Navarasam. You definitely heard the
Oh, interesting.
similarities right from the
Interesting.
beginning.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a little bit of controversies with the songs, but yeah, beautiful. Every time they were in the forest, I was like, this is gorgeous.
So amazing.
Yeah, and I
Great.
actually didn't like the film, but I did think it was gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
here, Catherine.
Yeah.
That's enough for me.
That seems to
sometimes.
be like the
Yeah.
theme, right? Like all of these films, you may not like them, but man,
There's stuff to
the
like.
imagery and the production and the costuming, like that's almost what makes the movie more like enthralling, right?
Mhm. It's almost in an old-fashioned sense, like going to live like to see.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a more event
Yeah.
and like immersive type of thing than just
Mhm.
I made this from my point of view to put in front of your face. And you know what I mean? Like there's a very like no matter who you are as a fan, almost like fan servicey quality that I really enjoy. I guess as a genre fan.
Yeah.
It's just very well-worn tropes that are like really inhabited in a way that feels very comfortable to the viewer, which is a really cool place to exist in cinema, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's see. Okay, we went back to Lara because her internet was back up. So we'll
Yay.
go down to Elizabeth and see what you have to say about some 22 films.
Being heavily involved with bloody good horror, I have a pretty one note kind of viewing list for the year, and have just for other projects wrapped up top 10 list. And I have a 4-year-old daughter that keeps me very busy. So I didn't have time to really assemble a secondary list with non-genre, non-horror films. But like KGF, my first Indian franchise. I think it's the first review I did for Cinemondo that I
It was.
joined
It's
you.
like
Yeah.
we launched
Wow.
you with KG. I know, poor thing.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, I was
So good.
like,
It was an event. It was spectacle. I still
this is amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody's like, oh, these films.
I feel like I just like turned over a rock and there's like a ruby. Like it's like I just feel like, why is anybody going to another movie in the theater right now? And I know they were looking at me like, what is this white girl doing in this movie right now? And like I was just like having a blast. Like this is amazing. So that's a franchise I think that's just always going to hold a really, really special place in my heart. And that's one that I'm so glad does get theater play. And I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's very, very hit or miss. Like ones that you would absolutely imagine would run in several theaters here don't often make it. Like it's been surprising to me. And like, who do you talk to at a theater about that? I don't know, but like we have a pretty prominent Indian population in and around Memphis. So I would love to see, you know, just more diverse selection of films in our area to anybody listening that can do anything about that.
Yes.
Obviously RRR, and it's so great to see Indian cinema in a meaningful way break through to Western audiences. So it's really cool to be a part of a project that celebrates Indian and world cinema, and to see that happen like in real time and things go viral, that it's like now it is a shared experience with like, you know, people that I know listen to me about other movies, like, see, like this also is very cool and
We weren't
you may
crazy
be
when we
missing
watched
out
it.
on something. Right. So yeah, like as an advocate for diversity in cinema, it's just been a really cool year to see some things make a splash that like definitely deserve to. And it's cool to have it like create a language around film that it now feels shared with, you know, fellow critics, audiences. It's cool. Like it feels fresh in a way that like it already felt so different and so immersive, and now it's like looking through even a different lens of this kind of worldwide acceptance that you feel like you were like found a band first or something. And you're like, I've been listening to them since, you
I
know,
knew
like
that
there's a
RRR
sense of
before anyone else
community.
did.
Right. There is. And now I don't feel like a lunatic, like begging my partner to watch RRR, which we still need to do. It is sort of an issue
Still need
of
to do.
carving the time out sometimes.
The timing.
But
Problem.
I do have to celebrate just to represent the horror community and culture. Ty West had the most amazing year. I don't know if we have horror fans here besides myself and Lara and
Not so
Kathy.
much.
But he's a director I followed since sort of the beginning of his artistic career and have always really, if not loved, appreciated everything he's done and tried to do. He is one of my favorite directors, though, overall. And when I heard he was doing what's going to be a trilogy with Mia Goth as his apparent muse, I am so here for it. I need them to stay as a team forever and ever. And I have to say, on some platform, that I so appreciate his ability to draw complicated and often dislikable female characters and then fully flesh them out in a way in which it feels like it gives them as much weight as a Julia Roberts in a romantic comedy. It's very refreshing. It's not something we get to see play out on screens very often. And it was so well done that like, I'm so excited for Maxine, the next entry in the trilogy. So those are my notes. Oh, and I did see The Menu last night too. Any genre fan needs to see that. I saw it too late to make my list, but it would have been up there.
I liked The Menu, but it was a lot more lightweight than I thought it was going to be.
See, I didn't know what to expect because I tried to avoid any and everything about it. So in the moments where they wanted you to be like, oh my God, like I totally was. So like, I feel like it kind of got me.
Yeah, if you're not a horror fan, you can still appreciate The Menu. It's still
totally
fun. It's not too disgusting.
And Ray Fine, he's
wow.
great.
Yeah,
I have a childhood crush from Wuthering Heights on him.
So Katherine, what do you have to say about 22?
I'm a bit like Melanie. I generally watch all over the place. I don't particularly have access to theaters, except this year, the Malayalam community was working very hard to get their films into our local cinemas. And for some reason in Southwestern Ontario, we have this thing going on where people have decided to attack cinemas that show Tamil, particularly Tamil, but they also went after the Malayalam language films this year. So the chains just said, no, not dealing with this. So
Why?
that's been unfortunate because I did have the chance finally to see a few films in theater.
Mm.
But mostly I'm relying on streaming. I did get to, and one that I actually drove into Toronto to see, I went to see it at the Tiff Bell Lightbox, was a Tamil film called Ponniyin Selvan. It's the first part,
yeah.
with another part coming, directed by Mani Ratnam.
Mhm.
It's this is Ratnam's dream project, and it's based on a beloved classic novel in Tamil literature. So there was a lot of excitement in the Tamil community to see this work adapted on screen. It is I'm going to call it a period drama. The characters are historical characters, but very little was known about them. And this book kind of posited a story about them. And it's essentially a political succession story, and all of these characters that are involved in what's going to happen. It's during the time of the Sola dynasty in South India. This film is epic and glorious and beautiful. They made a massive effort to research costumes, and it's like there isn't much photographic or image detail on this. So one of the things they did was there were drawings in the book, and it's like a massive 7-volume tome. It's like a huge thing. It stars some of like the biggest names in Tamil cinema.
Yeah.
It also draws people from other industries. There are some
Right.
Malayalam stars who are in the film.
Aishwarya Rai from Hindi cinema.
Yeah, and I loved it. Like, I was so happy that I got to see it on screen because I had also read the book and loved the book. So I was like,
that's good.
just as excited as the Tamil people who loved this book as well. So that was really, I loved this film. I think it ended up overshadowed a little bit by RRR and all the attention to it. And I don't think it's the type of film that would appeal to the same audience looking for those things. So not necessarily something I would say, if you loved RRR, try this. But I do think it's like wonderful. It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah.
Another film I saw, which people aren't going to have a lot of access to, but I'm going to say, please look for this. I review a lot of festival films. So it's a film called Muttaya. It's a Telugu language film directed by Bhaskar Maurya. And it's been on the festival circuit. And from what I hear, they're looking to get a release coming sometime in 2023. But it's a really, really charming little film about a 70-year-old man who dreams of acting in movies before he dies. And then the whole film is how he tries to achieve that dream. It's really funny and really lovely. And I just I wanted to see it again and again. So I'm hoping it will end up, in theaters and then on streaming.
Wow.
I'm going to not talk about a lot of the Malayalam language films that either Harsha has mentioned or that we talked with when we spoke with Melanie, because there were a lot. This was an amazing year for Malayalam language cinema. What I hear is part of that is because of the backlog, because of the pandemic. So things slowed down. But people were trying to make favorites lists and were going, I have 40 to 50 films and they're all fabulous. What do I do? So,
and you should mention, Katherine made a point of trying to see all of the films released in Malayalam in 2022. Like I can't even, like, it was so many movies.
Yeah,
wow.
what I could between the theater and on streaming. And so I'm picking up a couple here that were in theaters right at the end of the year and didn't get into people's lists unless they saw them in the theater. So the first one is a film called Sori Velika, written by Tarun Murthy. And it's about a court case that's brought against an older woman. You'll hear a theme here because I really love films with older adults in them. So it's about a case brought against an older woman for hitting a boy in their neighborhood community. And it arises out of a conflict between neighbors. She has a conflict going on with another man in the community. And he provokes the family to file a case against her. And it goes to court, and it takes like years and years and years. And as it goes on, witnesses have moved away, witnesses have died, and this woman comes to every time she has to appear in court, she shows up, even if the witnesses don't, and they have to reschedule things. It's a very moving film. It's really heartbreaking. It is slow, and people complain about that, but the pacing is to get you to think about how long this process is. And it's about an incident that actually could have been resolved within this community, but the pettiness of this one man pushes everybody to go to these kind of extremes. But in the end, it's also a film about compassion and forgiveness. The ending is really, I won't spoil it, but it's really lovely. And the boy who is hit is now a young man preparing to go to the Gulf. And it's sort of in the end how he and this woman work things out. Lovely film. And then there's Mukundan Uni Associates, which I'm told did not do well in theaters.
Oh.
And it did appear on streaming last week. It was very quick. And it's a shame if that's true, because this is the most twisty film I have ever seen. It's directed by Abhinav Sundar Nayak. It stars Vineet Srinivasan as Mukundan Uni, who is a lawyer. And he's literally an ambulance chaser. There is no gray in this character. He's completely black. He wants to succeed and make money at any cost. And this is quite interesting because I went doing some searching, and there have been these things documented in India where these networks of doctors, hospitals, police, lawyers, and they set it all up, and they go after accident victims.
Yeah.
And they people who can't afford to pay for their hospital care, so they arrange with the insurance companies, and it's a whole system. But it's completely fraudulent, but the people get their hospital care paid for. And this is a man who decides that he's going to be successful doing this, and he will do anything to be successful. It's actually a particularly clever bit of casting too, because Vineet Srinivasan he's very well known in the Malayalam industry. He's a singer, he's an actor, a writer, a director. There was a directors roundtable where both because he directed a film this year, and his director were on it. And what he said was, I don't know how he sleeps at night, because I couldn't make a film like this. He commented that he likes to make feel-good films, which is what his film this year was. And he said, at least as an actor, I could leave the character behind and go home. But how does he live with creating this whole movie? Because it's very twisty, but well worth it. There are a lot of little Easter eggs if you know Malayalam cinema, but that won't detract from the what you will get something else out of it. It's very funny. It's very black. And trying to remember where it's streaming. I think it's on Hotstar, which would be Hulu in the States. I have a little, because Hotstar is owned by the Mouse Channel, and I have a little quibble with them. And apparently, there's a little segment in the interval, because the film does. I don't even know where to begin, because it's got all these little references. It does little things. It switches to like graphic images, and there's a little thing at the interval where it's they do a countdown, and it's quite funny, and they cut that out of the streaming.
But why?
So it's like I know, because I guess the interval is meant to be for the theaters. But when people build in a clever moment at the interval, it's such a shame to lose it.
Yeah.
So, but I think
American audiences don't get it.
Well, that's very much like cutting the post-credit scene that some people purposefully stay for.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Well, they have the intervals. When I've seen a lot of Indian films in theaters, I say a lot, probably like 8 this year, but they have the interval but they just go right to the movie. There's no interval. Like you see
That's
it come up and
happened
then they just start
years
again.
ago,
There
yeah.
is no break when you're in
Yeah,
America.
and it's like,
you just
please
scream it.
give me my interval.
It's like I really
Wow.
could use a pee break right about now.
I've
Yeah.
experienced both. Yeah.
Well,
my
and
local theater has started showing the interval, started having a real intermission. And I went to see a couple of Tamil films this week, and the manager was the one that took my ticket. And I mean, he didn't look like an employee, he didn't have the polo shirt. And I said, "Are you one of the managers?" And I said, "I have to tell you how much I appreciate that you're having the intermission, the interval for Indian films." And
nice.
I said, "It's awesome," and it really is. And now I'm going to make a point of choosing that theater because. Yeah, these movies are long. Like we need an intermission in these Marvel movies. Like, give me a break.
Oh my God,
you know,
Yeah.
you know, and
15-minute
it's
break.
also I mean, they're built into the structure of the films to have a moment to say to your neighbor, "What was that? What did you think happened in that part?" And like there and an exclamation point. There's that they're purposely putting it in there that you have a break, that you have a moment to kind of regroup. And then come back to it. So besides just being able to have a bathroom break or run and get some more popcorn or whatever, but
stand up.
I'm old enough that I remember going to movies as a kid, and we would get intervals.
Yeah,
right.
And you need
Gone
to
with
get
the
your
Wind.
ice cream and your popcorn.
Break. Yeah. I mean, it's like a
Yeah.
theater intermission, right? You
Yes.
got that
Mhm.
15, 20 minutes to like get up, go to the bathroom, but not feel like you're rushed to miss something. Everyone knew you were coming back. And I'm like, this is all movies over.
Yeah.
What's
Mhm.
the limit? 90 minutes? No.
90 minutes.
90
Yeah.
minutes.
Right.
And I
You need
guess
a
there's
break
no
after
way
90 minutes.
exactly 90 minutes. I guess there's no way to find that film with the intermission in it somewhere. I mean, the interval in it anywhere. I mean, unless you're seeing on Hulu where it's edited. I guess you can't, because I want to see it now. I want to see just that part.
Yeah.
I want to see the whole thing because it reminded me of Better Call Saul.
Somebody actually uploaded it in the Malayalam film Reddit.
Oh, okay.
So we could actually see it. That's what I know what it's like.
Somebody,
and I went
just that.
Yeah. And
funny.
I was like,
that's how good
really? Really? You did that? Come on.
It'll be viral. Oh, that's so sweet though that they did that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That sounds like an amazing film. We did a trailer reaction to that and it looked really cool. A lot of stylistic flourishes that I just loved. So
it is so meticulously made.
It looked amazing. And he just looked great.
Go ahead. Can I go back to Katherine mentioning Punyan Selvan and comparing it to RRR, and I do feel like it's been grouped in with some of the because they're all South Indian films. It's been grouped in with and the mega budgets, but Mani Ratnam, especially as a director. He does this in most films. He says, you got to do your homework before you come watch my movies.
Yeah.
But especially in Punyan Selvan, I had not read the book like Katherine.
I hadn't read it either. Yeah.
But I had gone through Wikipedia and like memorized this is how this person is connected to this person. Just like, you would do while watching Game of Thrones or anything like that, except instead of going on the fan wiki, you go on actual Wikipedia to look at the historical relationships between people,
which I did.
Yes,
so I understand it.
And I still was a little bit lost. So,
me too.
So it was really helpful to watch it again at home while being able to switch back and forth between the relationships between the characters. And I think he's very unapologetic about it. That you got to know these relationships before you come in. It's almost the opposite of fan service. It's like this. I'm making this for myself and for the people in my group who know this story very well. And I'm so happy there's that there's both sides of that coin.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Mani Ratnam is probably my favorite Indian film director. And I agree with you. Like I struggled a little bit with this film because I hadn't read the book, and it was interesting. My audience, it was definitely all ages, but tending towards an older audience. This was one that grandma and grandpa wanted to come with the family to see because they remembered this book being serialized in a magazine, you know, in their childhood. Like it was a huge novel, and I didn't read it ahead, and I also was a little bit lost. It's a movie that I need to see again, because the first time you see it, you're just kind of like you say, how is this person connected to this person, and wait, who's fighting with who? And yeah, it is kind of, maybe it could have been a great extended mini series. I mean,
Yeah.
I am appreciative of it being in this grand theater scope, but as a story, since it is so sprawling, since it is so big, he had to hit certain highlights of the book that I think favorite scenes that people wanted to see, but that meant that it wasn't necessary. It left for a newbie like me a little bit confusing. So, and I think also it because it's part one, it does, you know, I mean, it has a complete ending, but it's sort of like Fellowship of the Rings, right? Like it's only part one, right? You're not going to get the full payoff of all the setup until the second part of the story, when the second part of the film comes out.
And I will say that some of the marketing, I won't say it was deceptive, but I think it had people a little bit confused, because they relied on Aishwarya Rai and Vikram very heavily for it. And then people went in and said, why is Karti the main character? And it's like, well, he's the main character in the book. Yeah, I know. I asked my husband how he felt, and he said, yeah, I was a little muddled at first, but once I sorted out who was who, I was fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was whispering in his ear, like, this. But for me, it was very much, oh, look at this scene is from the book, and it's like it was in the book, and it's so good. So I think you're right. I think it takes another viewing. It does take work to engage with it, but I loved it.
And it also, like, if you just leaned into it, like, it was a very enjoyable, easy film to watch. It wasn't like, you know, with Game of Thrones 2, it was very talky and there were a lot of names being thrown out. But I feel like this one was very, like, cinematic. There was a lot of action. There was a lot of humor, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh God, I don't understand, it's so boring. It's like I was still like intrigued and wanting to keep watching it, even if I wasn't sure exactly motivations or like the correlation of characters or what was happening in the big picture. But I still did watch Melanie's review and some other reviews and read the wiki to try to understand.
Yeah.
But I did lean into it and enjoyed it.
Well, Karti, I think, did exceptionally well. And
so
he
good.
really, like you said, he's the main character. And for me, he carried the movie both with swashbuckling and humor and just the whole thing. He was awesome.
And we gotta, I mean, I think a lot of the Aishwarya Rai Vikram promotion was also because we had seen them in Ravanan 10 years ago, and their chemistry was stunning. And I really, you should, anybody who loves, you saw that one scene, but we're the only scene with the two of them in Ponniyin Selvan, needs to go back and watch their them in Ravanan, because yes, it's the same thing of they're on opposing sides, but there's this attraction that they're negotiating, and it's also a Mani Ratnam film, obviously. Yes, stunning. I love them.
That's funny. That's a great suggestion. Everyone should see that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it in the big screen, but I did get to see it a couple times, you know, streaming, because like you said, you watch it, then you watch it again, and then read all the wikis and you figure it out. So
That's 100% what I did.
So I'll just throw out, you guys mentioned a lot of films that were on my list, and the only thing I'll throw out that I think doesn't really get talked about, but for some reason I just loved this movie. I don't know if it just hit me at the right time. I don't know if it was a rainy day and I was just in the vibe or something, but I just loved Kooman. I thought that was such a great, perfectly Hitchcockian thriller that I think is the closest I've seen, because everybody tries to do Hitchcock, everybody tries to do it, and it's always like, yeah, you get it. This one actually had me surprised. I was like, I couldn't figure out what was going to happen next. It had the most unique like soundtrack. I loved Asif Ali, and he's so adorable, even when he's being terrible, which he was. He was a terrible person, but you're still like, he just has the motivation. You're still on his side, even though he's doing terrible things like these big schemes to get back at people that end up turning inside out, because now he has no allies. He really actually needs them. That's what happens to you. But it was actually really moody, and I thought it was a really nice thriller. And I just watched it and was just like, wow, it just blew me away. It's a little film, it was really intelligently written. Ending was a little bit Brian De Palma versus Hitchcock at that point. It kind of got what? Just got a little bit odd, but I still was like, you did a good job really nailing that Hitchcock. So I just want to throw it out because I thought that was a really, really ambitious attempt at doing something kind of epic and fun.
how much do I love that you've mentioned Asif Ali, because most people who go into Malayalam cinema will hit Mammootty, Mohanlal, Prithviraj, Tovino Thomas. Thank you.
Well, now I'm a huge fan. I see him like, it's Asif Ali, and then I'm instantly loving him. I don't care what he's doing. He's like, oh, he's so good. He's so reliably great. Just so underplayed in so many ways. But I mean, he's not like the big flashy. A lot of these actors who are the super handsome. But he's always in there, always solid, and he's sort of an everyman, I think, in a way. So I really love that film. So. But this has been amazing. This is like an hour. We didn't get to any other questions, but this was such a great in-depth conversation, I think, of 22. I thought we were just going to zip on past those, like, yeah, whatever, 22. But it turned out to be great. And, I'm a beginner at all this. I don't know how to pronounce things. I don't know a lot of the ins and outs, but I love discovering and learning, and I'm getting better and better. And I'm dragging Elizabeth and Lara with me the whole way. We're all still learning.
Willingly.
Willingly.
We're coming.
And for horror fans, it's not 22, but Toombot is just as incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You just cannot miss. I just want to throw it out because I love horror, and Elizabeth brought that up. But that is just a great epic folk horror tale.
Yes,
beautiful.
Absolutely.
Loved it.
To see it.
So I think we can talk a quick moment about whether we think RRR will win the Oscar as our big finale. we have like about an hour or so. I think we can get that in there. But what do you guys? I know a lot of people don't really know about the Oscars. I mean, what they are, but I think people don't understand how it works. But basically, there's like 10,000 people that are in the Oscar Academy, technically in the Academy, and so they're all either nominees or people that are in the business, or other people who are kind of brought in because they weren't diverse enough, basically. So they lowered. They had like a broader standard for bringing people into the Academy.
There was an African American woman who was head of the board of governors of the Academy, and it was her mission over the last several years to invite more people of color and a more diverse Academy. So there's still, I think, only maybe 20 people in the Indian film industry that are Academy members. It's a very small number. It's a very small number.
I think that's about to change.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, people like A.R. Rahman, who won an Oscar for the music of Slumdog Millionaire. So, there have been past nominees like Lagan, but that's many, many years ago. So RRR is not the official. They don't say foreign language film. It's the international film, non-English film. So there's 80 countries that nominate one film to be their nominee. And India did not pick RRR. And there's also a documentary, I think, or a
The
short
Elephant Whispers. The Elephant.
Right.
And All That Breathes as well in feature documentary.
Right.
I'm going to say cello show because we need to say cello show.
Yes.
Because when people say that the Academy sort of announced the 15 countries that were on the short list, they didn't put the films. They said India, and everyone was like RRR, and it's like no, they didn't nominate it. And the sad thing about cello show is it was a festival film. It ended up on Netflix in India. But a lot of people hadn't seen it. I have seen it. I've reviewed it for the Austin Indie Meme Festival. It's a gorgeous film. It's really lovely. It's a well-deserved nomination. It's well suited to that category.
Right.
I'm not sure it will make the final 5. I've been sort of batting that around in my head.
Yeah.
I would love to see that because I love the film.
Yeah, and what's happening now is RRR is taking up all the oxygen in the room. Like no one's talking about, that film because, it's this big breakthrough and they're promoting the hell out of it.
Yep.
I mean, they're just everywhere.
I would actually like to see the case study gets written about that because I think it's fascinating what they have managed to do with it.
It is.
years ago, India sent a Malayalam film, Araminti Makanabu, to it, and the problem is they sent it and they put no support behind it.
Right.
And the filmmaker had literally very little money to promote it, and it didn't go anywhere. He made a film about that experience, and it's not a great film, but it's a heartbreaking look at what happens when you don't put the money behind it and the promotions behind it. So, kudos to the folks doing that promotion, because you can see what they've done.
You can.
Yeah, like that. I mean, like Korea's film Parasite, that people were stunned one a couple of years ago. Well, there's a woman, I think she lives in LA, that was one of the producers of the film. She invested heavily in the campaign, bringing the filmmaker, bringing the stars, because it is a campaign. It's like the equivalent of a political campaign. There's all sorts of screenings for Academy members. And you have to be there to do Q&A. You have to decide that you're really going to spend the money. I mean, we've seen the for your consideration ads. Okay, well, that's just the beginning. The beginning is just the print ads. It's also showing up and being there. So, for instance, the Golden Globes was last week, and NTR, Ramcharan, Rajamouli were all there. As well as, the songwriter that won Best Song, which there was kind of a stunned moment in the room.
I loved it.
Because there was a Rihanna song, there was a Taylor Swift song, like everybody's expecting one of the normal, the regular people to win. And then just the joy at the RRR table was so fun to see. But anyway, they were really, they've really been working it, and you have to be present. You have to be here. You have to put in the time. So what are the realistic chances? So some of the other awards that are coming up are Guild Awards, and that's how Oscar watchers look to see. But the problem is, like, I don't know that, for instance, Rajamouli is a member of the Hollywood Directors Guild, right? Or the Producers Guild, or the the Writers Guild, or the Screen Actors Guild. So those RRR might not even be eligible for some of those, which is what an Academy voter kind of sits down and looks at. The rules are film has to have played in certain metropolitan areas and theaters. Well, okay, RRR did that, right? So, but there's all these other rules. So then people are looking at all these eligible films. However, so some of these, there's only 5 slots. Will Rajamouli get a director slot? I don't know. But Best Picture, there are 10 slots, and all Academy members can, and it's also a very complicated ranked ordering system. So it might not be everyone's number one, but it might be in people's, top list. And so it might bubble up and make it in one of the 10 slots. And I think the best shot might actually be for Best Song. It's one for Golden Globes. Yes, everybody talks about, the lyrics aren't as beautiful as this song or that song in Indian cinema. I'm like, okay, people, I know that, but I want to see them performing on that Oscar stage live.
That scene blew me away when I was just like, what? I mean, it's not even about what it's about. It's about the
highlight of the
vibe
entire film to me. It is the highlight of the entire film.
Totally.
And to see, because I've seen many Ramcharan and NTR films, I know they're both such good dancers. And what was interesting at this, they did an interview for Variety, big trade publication in Hollywood. And they said the hardest thing was synchronizing their styles, because their dancing styles are so different. And Rajamouli wanted them to be in sync, like, to look the same. And that was the hardest part. But it was also one of the most joyful scenes. NTR said it was his favorite scene to film. They were in Ukraine. They're actually, the backdrop of that song is the president Zelensky's residence. So whether, I don't know if it still looks like that right now.
I know.
But Incredible was filmed that part was filmed in Ukraine. So it's such a joyful song, and I would just love to see it performed live, and what an impact that could have. Billions of people watch the Oscar ceremony. Like, it will, just the fact that they could be on the red carpet
be huge.
and could give such a bigger could give such a bigger stage for Indian cinema. So I'm hoping it gets at least one nomination. We can argue, does it deserve to be voted in as the best picture of all 2022? I don't know. I haven't seen all the other films, but I would just like it to be invited to the party. Let's just put it that way.
And it gets to carry Oscar nominee. Just being a nominee, technically the awards are just part of the marketing, because what it does, it gives a second life to film. So you get to use in the marketing Oscar nominee. And if you see that, you in your head, you're kind of like, Oscar winner, it must be good. So even if it doesn't win, it still gets to carry the bragging rights of being nominated. So that even if it's the song, it can just say RRR was Oscar nominated. That's all. You don't need to say what it's for. I don't know, but hopefully it'll say Oscar winner too. You never know. I mean, and Oscar winner, I don't always think the best films necessarily the best films. I mean, a lot of the winners, Spielberg, he's done 1 million films, and they're not all nominated, and that's the only one I think could be the biggest threat, because this is like his most personal film. It's got a lot of goodwill. It's about the industry, which they love, so it might be that, but it might be a wild card. I mean, because this is getting so much publicity, everyone's talking about it. I mean, it really is like if you're paying attention, like with Parasite, it kind of catches fire with just just in general. So then all of the people voting are thinking, oh, I should put my vote behind this one. I mean, and the initial, I belong to the Television Academy, and it's kind of similar, where you make an initial vote and it narrows down the field. Then you do a second vote for the actual nominees. So if it got past that initial narrowing down, then it's got a really good shot. So I'm optimistic, because this thing, like you said, may not be Best Picture, but it might win something else. And then it happened to Golden Globe, where Spielberg won Best Director, but he didn't actually win. So you just never know what's going to happen with these crazy awards. But.
Right, and I do feel like in the past there used to be sweeps of one particular film would win a whole bunch of awards, like Titanic or something like that. It would just be like a juggernaut and now I sort of feel like Academy voters like to spread the wealth. Well, I'm going to honor this film by voting for this person as best actor. And this wasn't my best picture, but this performance for best actress, I want to highlight that one. So I feel like they kind of spread the wealth. And so that could also be in RRR's favorite. So,
and the interesting part is too, editors vote for editors, actors vote for actors, directors vote for directors. So it's not like all 10,000 people are voting. It's broken into categories even from that. So, there might be directors might be nominating it for Best Picture, because it realizes what a huge achievement RRR is, considering the budget and where it was filmed and what they did. So, you just never know. Or it might be everybody wants to kiss Spielberg's ass and they're just going to vote for his movie. That's how it goes down to that point. I also would like to point out that this is the 95th Oscars. Only 7 women have ever been nominated for Best Director. Come on.
Yeah.
Only 3 have won. Wow. This is not good.
Right. And the Directors Guild, it was all 5 men that are up for the Directors Guild. And that's typically an indication, not always 1-to-1 for the Best Directing Oscar nominees, but it's a pretty good indicator. And so,
so we're hoping for better treatment in the future. Yeah. But, apparently women-involved director projects have plummeted in the past 2 or 3 years. So I'm hoping that's pandemic related. I don't know. But at this point, it's hire more directors. And when female directors are involved, more women are employed below the line. So you get more people, and all of the jobs are staffed by women. So, we need to support that more.
Yeah.
For sure.
So this was amazing. We're all gonna be crossing our fingers when those nominations come out. You never know. But we're definitely gonna do this again, because we had all these other great questions. I think that'll be really good conversation starters. I really do want to hear more about what everyone's experience is being a film critic in this space, the fan space and the review space. A question that was handed to us. I really want to hear about that. I think that'll be very interesting to hear everyone's experience in that. So we will definitely reconvene for another one of these for sure, and hopefully even more people. Who knows? But
Kathy, I really appreciate that you had this idea and you pulled this together really quickly, and it was wonderful to be able to talk with all these ladies, meet some new women, some new women, and some old friends.
I mentioned to Melanie that when she approached me with the idea, I was like, I had been watching all of these year-end roundtables and was saying to myself, why isn't there one with just the women? So
Same.
thank you.
I know,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, and
I
thanks
really
for
appreciate
the
it.
invite.
Thank
Yeah.
you guys for coming, because I do want, that's one of the things I've been trying to do, and that's why I got Lara and Elizabeth involved too, is we start doing these girls editions of review, because you have to call attention to the fact that it's just women,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's all men or a man
Yeah.
and a woman. It's always
Right.
one or the other. So I'm definitely interested in doing more of this. So I hope you guys can join me next time.
Great.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thank you.
See you guys later. Stay on for a second after we sign off. I want to talk to you guys. Okay. Bye.
Bye.